Give me a second here. Welcome to the Knicks Film School post-game show presented by FANATICS Sportsbook. You'll have to forgive me. I still have not regained my composure. That shot always goes in against us. That shot always goes in against us. Doesn't matter whether it's Victor Wembanyama or Tyrese Halliburton or LeBron James, Michael Jordan. That shot always goes in against us because we're the Knicks. We are the side character in somebody else's story. I swear to God, I lost my mind during the watch along when the Deuce McBride 3 put them up by 14 points. And yet, in the back of my mind, no, sorry, that wasn't the Deuce 3. That was I put them up 12. The OG pass to the corner and then the cat pass to the corner and the OG dunk. And even when they were up 14 with 6 and change to go, I knew, because I just know NBA history. And by the way, I remember what happened a year ago. And I knew it wasn't over. And I said to Andrew Claudio on the watch along, I said, next 3 minutes, man. Next 3 minutes are going to tell us what kind of game this is. Either the Spurs make their push and it's a game down the stretch, or we make our push and we do everything that we need to do. And and I didn't expect to lose the entire lead in the next 3.5 minutes, but that's what they did. And as I'm sitting there watching that, it is utterly unbelievable how everything this team has done, all 12 consecutive wins, most competent franchise, one of the most competent franchises, certainly in the National Basketball Association. Like, they got the squad. You can't count them out, so on and so forth. I've written all the words. I've spoken them into this microphone. Every ounce of it gets washed away, and it's just the old pain and the old scars and the old PTSD just comes all the way back up to the surface. And I'm watching this, and I'm going to say, of course, this is how it's going to go down. Of course, the Knicks, after winning game 1 of the finals on the road and having a 14-point lead midway through the fourth quarter of game 2 and putting this young team away for good, of course, the Knicks are going to be the one to give up that lead. And it's a series, and they will inevitably lose, in heartbreaking fashion. And it all comes rushing back. Charles Smith comes rushing back. 8 points in 8.9 seconds comes rushing back. The finger roll comes rushing back. The suspensions come rushing back. Olajuwon getting a fingernail on the fucking ball comes rushing back. It all came rushing back, and you're watching this. You're watching this, and you're seeing your fucking life flash before your eyes in the biggest stage imaginable. And it all leads up to one shot by the player who has already been written in magic marker, the darkest black ink you can imagine. It is going to be his league for the next 15 years. And he has the chance to write the first legendary chapter that they're going to show on highlight reels until I'm long gone. And he has the chance, and he has the shot, and he misses the shot. And we win the fucking game. I'm delirious. I'm legitimately delirious. I can't believe he missed the shot and we won that game. Look, the Knicks did not win the finals tonight. They are up 2-0. They have taken both games in San Antonio. They did what they came to do. if this Spurs team showed you anything in the last 7 minutes of that game, it is that they will not lay down and die. They will come out on Monday night and they will be ready to play. They will be ready to give it their all. They are not going to go away. You are going to need to continue to beat this team. So the finals did not end tonight. But my God, what a win that was. And like, it's breaking my brain because we got the miss and then we got everything that happened leading up to the miss. And this team scored. I mean, how many points did they when OG dunked on Wemby, that put them up 97-83. They scored 8 points for the rest of the basketball game. And like, we'll talk about those points, and they were all important points. How about OG Anunoby 3 for 3 from the free throw line? Ice water running through every vein in his body. JB with the one make he had, the one make. Oh my God. And that was the other part of it. I was convinced that the prince that was promised, the one who we have been, have fallen in love with over these last 4 years, was gonna be the GOAT, not the capital G, capital O, capital A, capital no, the all lowercase, the GOAT, and have to wear 7-25 with one massive missed free throw around his neck like an anchor, potentially for the rest of his life. That's what we're talking about here. Those are the margins. And I was convinced, because again, we're the Knicks. We don't get the guy. Our guy, eventually our guy will falter. But, tonight, did he have it? No. But his teammates picked him up. And that's what this team is all about. And that's what they've been about since they put it together. It's what they've been about since they hired Mike Brown as coach. And it's what they've been about every step of the way on this entire playoff run. It has been about the team. It's not about any one guy. It's about every guy. And talk about heroes. There are some heroes that we will talk about tonight. I'm going to bring DJ Zullo up on the stage in a second, because I know, we have different age ranges here at Knicks Film School. I'll bring him up right now, because, we're not the oldest. Shout out to my compatriots, Jeff and Sean. I think they got us both beat by a little bit. Not much.
Not much.
We are 4 OGs, though.
Yes.
And we have the scars in the way that Andrew and Jeremy and Mensa, I love all of you. Rebecca, we love all of you guys. You bring something different to this party, because when you have, I don't know, did they ever go away for you, DJ? I don't think they did.
No. I mean, when you talked about all those nightmares coming back into your mind, I mean, I had all the same thoughts. Charles Smith and Olajuwon, all those things, the suspensions, it all came flooding back. And it's like, you said it perfectly. Like, the basketball gods, they always figure out a way to break the Knicks' hearts. And they just gave us one tonight. And it feels like you run out of that building like you stole. Oh, I know you're up 14. But it just feels like, because of the PTSD, because of the past heartbreak, it just feels like you got out of there by the skin of your teeth. And it feels like we stole it, and it feels like we deserved it. And like Knicks fans, like I'm thinking about Knicks fans our age, older, younger, like we deserve that shot to not go in. Like, it just, if there's any just one time for the shot not to go in, because when it was midway from his hands to the rim, like you, I was so convinced that ball was going through the hoop. And when it didn't, it took me like 10 full seconds to fully grasp that they won the game. And I don't think I've really processed it. Like, I'm in like physical discomfort right now. My head is pounding, my stomach hurt. Like, this was a game that I'm not going to look back on with like, even if they win 2 more, like this game is just like it would have been a travesty to lose it. But even in winning it, like I have this, it's like a weird feeling to come out of there, even though it's 2-0 because of how it ended. But I'm going to have to take some time to sort of wrestle with this, because the point is we got one that maybe we shouldn't have gotten at the end, but we got it. And you know what? We're not apologizing for any of it.
I'm sorry. If there is one fan base in the NBA, one fan base out of 30 teams in the NBA that does not need to apologize for a blessed thing, it is us.
Yes.
And I don't even know who would be, because there is a gap. There is an ocean between the distance between us and whoever you want to put number 2 on that list is bigger than the distance between whoever you want to put number 2 on that list and pick one of the Celtics or the Lakers.
It's not 53 years. That's not the point.
No, that's not the point.
Because if they didn't have the moments that we've talked about where your heart was just ripped out of your soul and stomped and ripped apart, and then you feel like every time you have a shot, and this is the year, that next year will be the year.
Yeah.
And it just never happens, and it happens in the worst possible way. That's why the gap between 73 and whatever's going to happen in this one feels so raw, is because of all the things that have gone wrong. But like, enough did go right. Like, it's funny, like 97-83. And then Harper gets he gets downhill and he's able to get a free throw. And it was sort of like, it changed the momentum a little bit, but they got the lead to 97-83. Like, this team let go of the rope a little bit, and we can talk about some of the major offensive concerns down the stretch, where there were times where they didn't know what the play was, who was supposed to screen. There was utter confusion in the last like 5 or 6 possessions. But for this team to build that lead and I thought found some things that are going to carry over into games 3 and 4. And I think that's also part of the narrative tonight, is that, yeah, they let go of the rope and they made some egregious errors down the stretch, but they built a great lead against a team that was trying the hardest to get this game. So I think that's also part of the equation here, but I'm just so thankful that we got one, and we're up 2-0 in the finals, and it doesn't seem real right now.
And look, the Brunson steal was a right place, right time steal, but he was in the right place at the right time, and he stole the ball and he drew the foul. Vic fouled him, and like, that was the go-ahead point. Would have liked him to make 2, but that's okay. They look. Can we credibly sit here and say that they won the game with defense down the stretch? I mean, 29 points in the fourth quarter, and again, the vast majority of those were scored. I mean, we could do some quick math right now. So 97-83, the Spurs ended up with 104 points. So that's 19 over the last, what was it, 6 and change? I think that roughly checks out.
Yeah.
That's a lot. Did I feel like their defense ever fully let go of the rope? I didn't feel that way. I thought the Spurs made some incredible shots, and like, they tapped into their talent, and they made some shots.
No, and De'Aaron Fox is a big time player, and he looked healthier tonight, and he got Brunson on a couple of switches, was able to get to the rim. Obviously, Wembanyama as a threat at the rim is huge. But yeah, I mean, the defense did hold, and Mitchell Robinson.
We haven't said his name yet, and two
massive stops.
2 massive stops.
He looks up to Wemby literally, and but he's got the 7'5" wingspan, and he's as we've talked about, and it's been more of a thing being discussed because of his hand injury on the right hand, contests with his left hand, and there are those 2 left hand contests, one in the left corner at 104 all, and then obviously the one on the right wing, where you look, it's a clean-ish look because he's that big. But if all you're trying to do is just take whatever the field goal percentage would be against a normal player, and you're just trying to bring that number down to a more manageable level and just get your hand up. And you know what was funny is I thought one of the just kind of a disappointing moment in the game was when it was 87-75. Mitch has Wemby has Mitch top of the key. Wemby just stares him down, pulls the three. Mitch never gets a hand up. And you could see Mike Brown at that moment yelling at Mitch, you got to contest. You got to get a hand up. And he got a couple hands up late in the game, and he just did enough to force a couple of misses. And okay, they're just massive. And look, Mike Brown made the right moves. That you could say it's obvious to get Mitch in the game, but he made the move. He got Mitch in there, and he was able to get 2 stops against a guy that was really doing a lot of damage in that fourth quarter.
I gotta tell you, I didn't have any issue with anything Mike Brown did in this game. I didn't have anything, a huge issue with like, yeah, I mean, there was obviously some, so do you want to talk about the last, I mean, they're up 2-0 in the NBA finals, and we're both sitting here and I could tell your energy is matching mine, which is like, we should be having a fucking party. And yet I can't fully.
So we need to have a moment. You know what this is? This is our collective PTSD, like kind of like intertangling, and it's creating the vibes. We need to just like take a deep breath. And just like as Andrew said to us when we first logged, we're up 2-0.
They're up 2-0 in the finals.
We're 2 wins away from an NBA championship. That's fucking unreal. And as I said, they did some amazing things like this. How about 76-72? And there's no Cat, and there's no Brunson in the game. And it's Deuce pull up, Bridges pull up, Bridges, Mitch lob. And you're like, and before that, you're like, how are they going to generate offense against a Spurs defense that was just in their shirts the entire game? And 3 incredibly hard shots being made, and then Bridges with the lob to Mitch. I mean, maybe Bridges we should talk about him.
It was
I know he missed shots late. He was unreal.
It was the defining stretch of the game. Without question, it was the defining stretch of the game. I don't know if I would say that Mikal Bridges was my defining player of the game, although 40 big minutes and never once let up on defense. Like he was there defensively the entire game, 20 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists. That is as big time of a stat line on 8 of 13 shooting. That is as big time of a stat line as you're going to get from Mikal Bridges in any game of this nature. And that stretch was absolutely the defining stretch of the game. And because they won it, as of right now, it is the defining stretch of the series. Like, never needs to apologize for anything again.
Yes.
Like he is free and clear, because needless to say, they do not win this game without Mikal Bridges. And then we're going to bury Landry Shamet after the top 2. And because the top 2 gave the performances that they gave, and Landry ends up with you look at the stat line, you're like, okay, he scored 13 points on 12 shots. That's not incredible. And yet anyone who watched the basketball game, like you will not soon forget Landry Shamet's impact. To say nothing of the impact of a few other people. We talked about Mitch Reddy, Deuce, obviously. Hosea had the most impactful 0-4 stretch for 10 minutes. I thought he was very good. But we got to talk about Karl-Anthony Towns.
Yep.
And we're halfway through the NBA Finals. The Knicks are up 2-0. And if we were to vote on the MVP of the NBA Finals halfway through, or with the Knicks halfway to an NBA title, Karl-Anthony Towns is the MVP, and I don't think it's close.
Not close. He's been incredible.
Everything that they could have possibly envisioned him giving them in these games: 21 points on 12 shots, 13 rebounds, including 3 on the offensive glass, a couple of massive ones in terms of all over the game. That's what it was. So Brunson had to make to put them up 102-99. Hit 3 makes in the fourth quarter. So he had the floater and on the fast break floater in the beginning of the fourth. He had the make that came after Cat got them an extra possession to make it 102.99. And then he obviously got the one that tied it up, which, like, look, Jalen Brunson's not going to get a lot of love tonight. That was a tough shot to make it 104 all.
Oh, I mean,
tough shot.
Yeah, I mean, they're just they are. And before we get back to Cat, we should say, I mean, I don't know how much of referee talk we're going to get into, but they are allowing some, let's just say, aggressive point of attack defense on Jalen Brunson.
It's part of the story, Deej. It's part of the story. It has to be.
Has to be. And you know, the other thing the Spurs are doing is if he gets past his initial defender, and they did this primarily in the fourth quarter, they're nexting the next rotation. So the player on the closest player to the wing is sliding over and taking Brunson. So they're just disallowing any dribble penetration. So it's like he's isolation against one guy. Now he gets downhill, another one slides over, and now in this case it was Champagnie who he's now got to work in an isolation situation again. It's just incredibly exhausting, and for him to just get to his spot and have the wherewithal to just that lean back Dirk fadeaway to tie it at 104. I mean, it's going to be lost a little bit, but needless to say, they probably don't win the game if he doesn't make it. And just a classic Brunson make from that spot of the floor, which has become sort of like where he likes to go late in games, around the right elbow, maybe a little bit deeper. But that's a shot he's so comfortable, or an area he's so comfortable making. He's made 2 in the series that are going to go down as some of the biggest shots in the history of the franchise if they go on to win 2 more.
And they have to get the 2 more. I'm looking at the final score on the ESPN page. It seems wrong.
I know, because we just are so conditioned to be on the other side of it. But we would have been on the other side of it, and probably not in a traumatic way, in a way that the Spurs would have won going away if Karl Towns wasn't the best player on the floor for most of that game, at least 3 quarters.
Not your first rodeo. Karl-Anthony Towns. I read his stat line. Like the notion that, and you guys talked about it on X's and O's before the series. If you would obviously there was the possibility that the Spurs were going to put Wemby on Towns, and we thought that was the thing that they might try to do. One name we have not said, although he got a massive defensive rebound on the first Wembanyama miss in the final minute. One name we haven't said is Josh Hart. Josh Hart, 18 minutes tonight. He was my player of the game, despite having only 1 made field goal in game 1. This was not Josh Hart's night.
It was not.
Made a few plays. We'll get back to Josh Hart in a bit. Why did I bring up Josh Hart? Oh, because we said, all right, well, if Wemby's not on Hart, then he's going to be on Cat. And Hart hasn't really been on the floor all that much. And we could talk about why that is. But Wemby's been on Cat a lot. And if you would have told us before the series that Wemby was going to be guarding Cat as much as he would, well, as much as he is, and Cat was going to have the series that he's having, and he had that moment again, it's like it happened in the midst of when the Knicks were up big. So like maybe it gets lost a little bit. It shouldn't. When he was, I forget what the exact thing he said was. He was basically like, he can't handle me.
You can't F with me. Yeah.
Can't fuck with me. Hey,
listen. Yeah, I know. I cursed 5 minutes ago, 6 minutes ago. I don't know why I held it back there, but yeah. And he was right.
Wemby can't fuck with him.
Can't.
No one can right now. My honestly, for all the stuff late in the game that is like, you know what it is? It's not. Sorry, it's not that is like preventing me from being exuberant as I am. It's just mentally I was just like so preparing for the loss. I can't now extricate myself out of that.
I'm 100% with you. That's exactly where I am. It's like we went from, all right, you're up big, to let's just keep pushing this. And we've seen this team just push leads once you have it, to go in the other and whatever. But it's just it's a roller coaster. And, this has been a grind series, and Cat's been up for the grind. He got lost in the fourth quarter, which has been sort of a reoccurring theme. Obviously, there's 2 years here.
That's what I was saying. That's my thing. That's the only thing that's like really sticking with me is like, man, I wish they could figure that part out to make sure that doesn't happen again. It's tough because they're switching every Brunson Cat screen. They were really aggressive when Cat did pop to bring over a third defender. And I'll say this for the Spurs. They are so quick with their rotations because Cat has the ball multiple times when he's catching against a rotation, and Cat's a quick decision maker, but if he's it's like a split second off and the rotation's already been made on the swing from Cat. So credit to them, but there's nothing in his game right now that is not at peak form. Athletically, he's at, I think, the best he's looked all year, which is incredible 100%. When you're talking about playing in the NBA Finals. And this is the best he's looked in terms of his finishing, his quickness. And look, he's able to defend Wemby. This is a guy, by the way, guarded Kevin Durant a few years ago. Well, guarded Jokic, obviously, in that Minnesota series very well. And now he's guarding Wembanyama, and he's making his life tough. Like, he's building this defensive resume, at least as a one-on-one defender. That's, you can't call this guy a bad defender anymore. I'm just done. I've done it before. I'm not doing it. And he's been everything you wanted. 19 and 12 in the finals on the efficiency and the defense. It's obviously the MVP the first 2 games overall. And, the Spurs just don't have an answer for him because they were keeping Wemby back on the line and they were really aggressive. There's possessions where Wemby was guarding Brunson because Brunson was the lowest player in the corner. So Wemby just stayed there. And I thought like the Knicks go into the 5-shooter lineup. And this is where the Knicks are different than Oklahoma City, is that they just spread them out so much that the rotations that were pretty, much closer in the Oklahoma City matchup, where now the Knicks are spreading them out. It was really tough for them in terms of the Spurs defense. And Cat's he sort of carries the weight of that because of what he can do putting on the floor and his 3-point shooting and his passing. Like, he is playing like an MVP right now. And it's amazing to see. And I'm just like, I feel great for him to do this on the stage because it's just going to quiet a lot of the bullshit that's been out there regarding him not being tough enough and all this stuff. So I'm sure that stuff's still going to be out there, but I'm hoping he's putting a lot of that to bed. This is a career redefining. You want to know how good this postseason's been for Cat? Regardless of what he did or didn't do in this postseason, Karl-Anthony Towns was already going to waltz into the Hall of Fame. And forgive anybody watching or listening who doesn't give a shit about the Basketball Hall of Fame, because oftentimes it is like the Basketball Hall of very good. But like, just there are certain numbers that if you hit the numbers, like, you're just going to get in. Cat's going to have 20,000 points, 10,000 rebounds, and 3,000 assists. There have been, I wrote him in the newsletter the other day, 12 or 13 guys in the history of the league that have done that. All but one were members of the top 75 all-time team. So the numbers, again, they could have gotten swept in the first round. And if he had played another 3 healthy years, waltz into the Hall of Fame. And yet, this has been a career redefining postseason for Karl-Anthony Towns. Now, there will be some people out there who will tell you, no, that's just for you clowns who always doubted him. And you know what? There is some fairness to that, because he has been, I would say, relatively unfairly maligned, and he gets a lot of extra grief because of how it looks, as we've talked about for the last 2 years. When it looks bad, it looks very bad. And that's all fair. And the impact metrics are what the impact metrics are, and they've always been outstanding. And obviously, the numbers obviously are what the numbers are. And yet I'm still not backing off of that. Ultimately, like, does he care about public perception? Does he not give any bit of a shit about public perception? I don't know. I can't possibly pretend to peer into what actually makes this guy tick. But man, there's not going to be anybody who has any semi-reasonable opinion that people will that are actually worth listening to, that is going to see anything other than this guy's absolutely one of the best players of all time. And that's not hyperbole.
It's not. And look, it's not. The Knicks have been, this run at least has been compared to the 11 Mavericks in ways where they kind of sneak up on you and have this great run. It's not. He's not carrying the same load of responsibility on offense, but it did. That series redefined Dirk at a similar stage.
Great comp.
Late 20s, early 30s. Yeah, and Dirk wins that. And he just talked about, and it's been that no player has ever gained more, I think, esteem amongst NBA watchers, analysts, fans than Dirk winning that finals. I don't know if Cat winning it would reach that level, but it's going to come pretty close. Well, it's going to come pretty close. And I will say, Cat has had, I mentioned, some playoff moments and series where he's done really well, but the sustained success has never really been there. Like, he's had great playoff moments, but he's never gotten to, an A- to A+ level game after game after. He's never gotten to that point.
The consistency.
To his credit, the consistency has not quite been there. It's been there this year. And it's why he is, in a lot of ways, led this team in terms of like how he lifts them offensively to this point, 2-0 in the finals, because he's figured out the consistency. The coach has figured out his usage in a way that is, symbiotic with the team. The camaraderie, not off the floor, the on the court camaraderie is just breathtaking at times. It deserted them late in the game, but for roughly, 38 to 40 minutes, it was there again tonight. And it's just such a great thing to lean on in terms of like, the Spurs are playing with their hair on fire. And yet the Knicks weathered a storm. They got down double digits and they just keep doing their thing. And they know, because they know they're going to find the openings. And what Kat said in game one, like, our offense will catch up. It does feel like their offense is eventually going to find ways to pierce the defense. And again, it didn't sustain the 48 minutes, so we can get into why. But to build that 14-point lead, it certainly did. And it's led by him in a lot of ways.
Well, look, I think the headline of the finals through 2 games is Jalen Brunson is 19 of 56 from the field, and the Knicks have 2 wins and the Spurs have 0. It has to be the headline. It has to be the headline.
Imagine if someone told you those numbers and said, how many wins do you think the Knicks are getting on the road with Brunson going 19 of,
56.
56.
And that's the reality. So, all right, let's spend a couple minutes on the good and a couple minutes on the bad. What do you think the Knicks figured out tonight from, actually, no. Well, I'm going to ask you, what do you want to start with? What they figured out that was good or what started to go wrong?
Well, let's just go what kind of went wrong a little bit and end on a higher note. I think in the fourth quarter, I thought the Castle leaving the game gave the Knicks this opportunity here where it seemed like one, all right, we now have a target. De'Aaron Fox has the Brunson matchup. We are now going to attack that. I mentioned how the Spurs were nexting their coverage and sliding over another defender every time Brunson got a step. It's a really challenging defense to play against, because you just have to be really quick with your decisions out of that. And the Spurs, to their credit, were just, it's funny. They started the game playing at this incredible defensive pressure pace, and they ended it playing at that pace. In the middle, it sort of left them because it just isn't sustainable how hard they were playing guarding the basketball. But I thought the Knicks actually got out of their offense when Castle left the game. Who knows? I don't know if we will get an update on the injury. He seemed like he injured his leg a little bit.
Yeah, we don't know.
He leaves. And it felt like the Knicks kind of got bogged down a little bit. And then there was just so much confusion on who was supposed to screen where, because the Spurs weren't sending late. They weren't sending 2 to Brunson. And it almost like the Knicks know so well what to do out of that. It just, it's like automatic. They know send where the help's coming from, where to flash, usually to the middle, a lot of times with Bridges. And it just felt like it was, they didn't want to screen with Towns. I guess they're worried about the switching. And I think Brown still has this idea of like Towns and the turnovers, the ball in his hands late in games. And obviously with Brunson, we've seen it. Like, you're going to usually get a good shot, but I just felt like, I I just felt like there's going to have to be a reckoning with how they, because if they get into a close game in game 3, like there's going to have to be a little more awareness of how the Spurs are defending them and then how to attack that, because it just seemed like there was so much ad-libbing late and they just worked quick with it. And that was the departure that was so stark to me, because this team is, I think, what they've really been great at is like quick decision making and then just attacking, and they just didn't do it. And they got bogged down a little bit.
I mean, the one possession that was the Mikal Bridges turnover that he drove into just a wall of bodies, and it ended with the Victor Wembanyama and one that put them up by 2 points. I was like, what is this? Like, this is that was the moment, because before that moment, like they had gotten shots, and like some of the shots, I mean, we're sitting here lamenting like how they gave up a 14-0 run. There were some good shots in that 14-0 run, that they got and that just missed. But down the stretch, like you said, it was like a handful of possessions, and it culminated in that Bridges one where it's like, and so maybe it was just as simple as, like, when I saw that, I'm like, oh, Brunson just isn't confident. That was my thought.
He went right to the corner. Yeah. Which you just don't usually see.
And I'm wondering how much of what you're talking about in terms of what the Spurs did down the stretch and how much it threw off the Knicks. Could it maybe be as simple as, like, because you're saying Brunson had one guy on him, and it was a guy he should be able to take advantage of. Maybe just Brunson was like, I'm not, like, his confidence was shaken, but he was like accepting, like, this is not my night. I don't know.
Yeah. It was I just think it was a really challenging game in terms of the exhaustion physically. It felt like his just getting the ball up the court. It reminded me in some not so great ways 2 years ago, Indiana, where it just felt like they were really just wearing on him. They gave Hart that one opportunity to bring it up, and he turns it over and gets the flagrant. No. And look, Deuce McBride had a couple of times. It looked like Deuce, credit to him for making some shots. He looked like he couldn't dribble the basketball tonight.
Well, there was the backcourt. The backcourt violation that wasn't a backcourt violation, but yes, there were other times where he got into some hot water. I do want to transition for a second, because we've been talking for almost 40 minutes, and I guarantee you that there are people that have been screaming the entire time. How are you guys not talking about the refs? Deuce McBride's backcourt was not a backcourt. The Mitchell Robinson technical, that was just the most nonsensical thing in the world. And then culminating in a second half where, even as the Knicks are going on this run, the fact that the first free throws the Knicks shot in the half were the 3 free throws from OG that had to come after a challenge on the most blatant foul you could ever imagine. And I'm sitting there and I'm watching Tony Brothers, and, Knicks fans who may not know, like, the Knicks have an atrocious record with Tony Brothers as the head referee. The Spurs have a great record with Tony Brothers as the head referee. And there were just, it did not, to me, watching tonight. And look, there would have been, if they had lost the game, there would have been attention taken off of the refereeing, because if you have a 14-point lead with 6 minutes and change to go, like, you have to close the basketball game if you're a title team. And they did that ultimately at the end of the day, despite how it looked. But the refereeing in the game was an atrocity. And I just, like, it needs to be said. I don't know what else there is to say about it, but the refereeing in the game was an atrocity. That's all there is to it.
I mean, the Mitch technical, like, it didn't make any sense at the time. And then you see the replay, and it obviously looked worse that they would tee him up for that. Brutal on that one. Look, the Knicks lost 3 points to, obviously, the Josh Hart flagrant, which should have been a flagrant, and then the Mitch T. So that Victor shot goes in, I'm sure we would have had to, unfortunately, talk about that.
Thankfully, we don't have to. When I get it, look, the league has partners, and they're trying to get as many finals games as possible. But, like,
look, I mean, Richard Jefferson said it, that when OG was at the line, like, how are they only have X amount of? Well, you said it was the first time.
It was the first time in the entire second half that they went to the free throw.
Yeah, and that's just, that can't be the case in a game like that. And then the Cat offensive foul. It was almost like they had this they were honed in and really like hyper focused on really sort of technical fouls, not technical literally, like the figurative.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Really like trying to microscope what the Knicks are doing on their end. And then the Spurs end, I mean, Jalen Brunson, I swear was fouled 15 times just bringing the ball up the court.
And that's the other part of this is like, how can we fully separate out the 7 for 25 with how they're not calling anything on anybody? I mean, Jalen Brunson got to the line 5 times tonight. One was on a foul, 3-point shot that he was fouled on, which was very obvious. And the other one was the foul at the end of the game. Like, you can't tell me that Jalen Brunson can play 38 minutes in a basketball game and go to the line twice with the way they're defending him. You just can't tell me that.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's also part of like, I just didn't think he had drives to the rim that were the sort that we're going to draw some fouls. So I think part of it is how the Spurs defended him and how well they defended. To me, I just think you have to call some of those ball pressure fouls early, because once you don't call them, you're basically giving them free reign to do whatever the hell they want to do on him. And yes. I think if you call some early, they have to back off, because what they were allowing them to do in Castle primarily was just like that's at that point, it's not really like basketball. And look, we've talked about how we grew up watching the 90s, and like I get that, and that's physical playoff basketball to a point. But if it gets to a level where the player can't even function as a ball handler, a player like Jalen Brunson, who has some of the best ball handling skills in the league because of how physical and how aggressive they were given the right to be in that game, I think is where the referees erred. And that's not even, again, talking about the egregious technical on Mitch. And then I thought the cat foul was just a play on that hook offensive foul they called late. So yeah, it was in a way 5 versus 8 in that game. And they came out with a win, thank God. But yeah, the officials, that needs to be addressed in some way. I'm sure the Knicks will address some of it. Most teams do when they feel like they got the wrong end of the stick in that way. But yeah, bad job by the officials. Thank God it didn't really hurt the Knicks.
So let's end on a high note.
Yep.
I thought the Knicks, despite what we're talking about now, they also figured a lot of things out here. And I'm just going to ask you a very simple question. How good should the Knicks feel moving forward? Maybe that's an obvious question, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think they should feel really good. I think they have developed, and this is where at this point in the series, you sort of, a team that is especially down 0-1, they're going to give you the counter either to start game 2 or within game 2 at some point. And the Spurs started in game 2 with the counter, which is like, they're not going to have Wemby pressuring Cat at the top of the key. Like, if they're going to do whatever they can to keep him roaming and playing backline defense. And the Knicks discovered pretty quickly that, not to their own fault here, but it was the hard foul trouble sort of gave them this like 5-shooter look. And you just saw, as I talked about earlier, like what that does to a defense that is going to be in constant communication, because Victor has to literally call out these switches on the fly because players are interchanging, and he just has to take whoever is staying low. So that player then has to go out and switch on to someone else. So it's a very challenging defense to execute, and they do a really good job of doing that. But against Oklahoma City, where the rotations are just not as long and you're not as desperate to get out with the Knicks, especially with the Shaman in the game, it just provides this spread out floor that I think is really challenging for them. And then if they put Victor back on Cat, you sort of obviously know what to do in that case. So if I look at this, I'm like, yeah, the Spurs' big adjustments were that, and then just playing at like peak level in terms of intensity. I don't think there's really another one for them to go to, whereas the Knicks, I think, still have meat on the bones that they can get to, some low-hanging fruit. Up 2-0, I think freeing Jalen Brunson up a little more. I think they have to figure out a way to just take some of the pressure off him as a ball handler in some of these initiation possessions. And you're just going to have to assume there's even a decent to good shooting game for a full 40 minutes for Brunson. And if that's the case, I had a hard time seeing the Knicks losing to this team. But
look,
famous last words. But I feel like the Knicks have a lot going for them right now.
They have to win 2 of the next 5 games. Like, obviously, sitting here up 2-0 after going up 2-0 on the road, there's not a person alive that wants to think about a game 7. A game. There's not a person watching this that wants to think about a game 5, let alone a game 6
100%.
or a game 7. I understand that. I understand Madison Square Garden on Monday night is going to be the most intense sporting atmosphere. Man, I was at game 3 of the 2001 World Series when W threw out the first pitch that took place was it, a month or 2 months or so after 9/11. And I'll never forget there was a feeling in the air that night, obviously. I tell you, man, I think this is going to exceed it. And I get that is going to be there. So I'm not. I'm as hopeful as anyone that this is going to go the way that we all hope it is going to go, and that the Knicks will not have to go back to San Antonio. Sitting here right now, given the intensity that the Spurs just showed, and given how I am confident that the Spurs will come out with a really big effort on Monday night, I can't pour champagne yet. I just don't have it in me.
No, we shouldn't. I mean, this, if anything, the Spurs did find some things late. Maybe it's like a mental block that Victor had to get over in terms of just seeing the ball go in, even though they didn't go in late the last 2 shots, but he did score over 20 in the second half. I think a lot of that was sort of like just he made jump shots, especially early on in his second half, where he didn't make them early in game 2 and then in game 1. I didn't feel like he was getting loose to the point of like, all right, this is now going to be a major issue going forward. It just felt like he made some shots and got loose on some cuts and lobs. But I don't think the Knicks should feel anything other than very confident in how they're defending him, which is another reason why the Knicks should feel really confident about these next 2 games, because they just have answers for him specifically that most teams do not. Like the Knicks have 2 guys, 3 if you count OG, who wasn't seeing a ton of time against him, that can just
they haven't played that card yet.
They haven't needed to, and I just don't think they might do it because of foul trouble or whatever, but it just feels like you need a bigger, longer play. And Cat has just shown the ability to move enough with him, and then obviously Mitch
has been good.
Mitch is, you defend him with size. I think smaller players, he's figured out a little bit how to combat that. But listen, having the OG card in your back pocket obviously is awesome. I mean, how about that dunk by OG, which we haven't talked about, where he gets Victor on the right corner, and it's the same situation as in game 1 where you think he's just going to shoot it. Victor presses up on him because he's obviously remembering that. And then OG just able to not drive by him, but kind of gets him on his hip. And then I thought he was going to try to like reverse lay with his left hand, and he just goes up off 2 and dunks it, which you just don't see players do against him. Like, that was a phenomenal play that you don't, that's such a rare event for Victor to get dunked on in that spot.
We haven't, again, my fault, been talking for 50 minutes here. OG Anunoby had 17 points on 10 shots with 2 blocks and 2 steals. It's weird. It was a -10 in the game, same as Brunson. I don't know that I would say that is reflective of how he played. I thought OG was really, really good. So I guess the biggest question for the Knicks moving forward, how much can they play Josh Hart in the series?
I think if this is the defense that we're going to expect games 3 and 4, then I think it's a real question, where in game 1, because of how they were defending the Knicks playing Wemby on Cat, it gave Hart this freedom to really put his imprint on the game. Now, I will say, I think the Knicks are going to miss his defense if you're totally you're relegating 100%. Him to like 15 minutes. I do think you're going to feel that. And his ball handling and his transition, all those things. Like he does need to sort of like at least get to the baseline of doing all like the transition stuff and the head-to-heads and the passing and all those things. The defense has been there, but yeah, they have options here, which is like a beautiful thing where you have Josh Hart, who was just so integral to game one, a non-factor in game two. And Landry Shamet is just able to you plug them in and Deuce too in that way. And they're just floor spacers, and Shamet's release is just like the quickness and the confidence level he has right now. Like he is shooting like he is the best shooter in the world. And if you look at his percentage in the playoffs, he should feel that way. You
know why he should be? I don't know. For anybody who missed it, shout out to all my Substackers out there. I put this in the Knicks Film School newsletter today. Coming into tonight, this will go down a little bit, but he still might be first. I don't know what the minutes qualifications are that Basketball Reference uses, but coming into this game, Landry Shamet, Basketball Reference had him as the 2026 playoff leader in effective field goal percentage. So I was like, wow, for a 6'3" guard or 6'4", whatever the hell Shamet is, that feels like kind of rare. And so I went and looked at the year by year, all the players who have led various playoffs. I went back, looked at the last 15, 20 years in effective field goal percentage. It's all centers. It's all guys who shoot within the restricted area. Wow. And then
that's unreal.
And then there's Landry Shamet this postseason. He is, you cannot say enough. 30 or more minutes in the first two games of the finals.
Feels almost as wild as the Knicks being up 2-0. Landry Shamet has played 60 minutes.
Non-guaranteed contract.
I know. It's so wild. It's so wild. Shout out Mike Brown. Just kept them ready. The coaches that are keeping these guys ready. I mean, there's just like a team-wide success story. That's Landry Shamet. And then defensively, I felt like he wasn't. I felt like he hurt the team at times in game one, where in game two, I felt like it's almost like he had to get into the physicality of the game, where in game one, he comes in and immediately Castle attacks him and gets into the paint, finishes over him, knocks him to the ground. And he had a couple other possessions, but in game two, defensively, I felt like he was just his usual, like just screen navigating and getting into guys and yeah.
I don't know if you heard the Bill Simmons, Doc Rivers podcast after game one, but Doc, who coached Landry, we'll get
in LA, right?
Yeah, told an anecdote about how 5 years ago, 3 years ago, Landry Shamet couldn't stay on the floor because of his defense.
Mm-hmm.
And who was on the court on the final possession of the game for San Antonio ahead of Deuce McBride? And like, I'm sitting there watching, I'm like, man, I don't have an issue with it. I didn't have an issue with it. And that to give Landry Shamet that moment, that assignment in that spot, like if that's not a testament to the work ethic that this guy, to say nothing of the fact that he's had to overcome two pretty significant fucking injuries over the last 2 years.
Yep.
And like, I don't know that they win either of these games if Landry Shamet isn't on the team.
No,
rotation.
So important to how when they send Tudor Brunson, just having on that swing for him to be there is on the catch and on the rotation and he also has he's nailed this up fake sidestep three that feels like it goes in every time. And then, just real quick on the defense, he has transformed his body to the point where physically he can handle it. 2 years ago, 3 years ago, he couldn't have because he just wasn't able to go through him. And at times he can get overwhelmed, but he's gotten so much stronger as an NBA player. And, there's so many moments here in the playoffs where the Knicks just strength as a team, physical strength has been just a huge advantage for them. And, in terms of athleticism and physicality, it might be the most important thing this team has going, other than obviously the skill and the talent, all the things. Like they're just a strong team, and Shamet's a part of that too.
Let's end. What?
I still don't remember the Alamo. What up, Texas? How does it feel? The president doesn't want to visit your big ass red state. He's coming to the Garden. That's all my thoughts on that. Repeat after me, fellas. The New York Knicks have a 2-0 lead in the NBA Finals, have won 13 straight games, and are 2 wins away from an NBA championship. How about that weak Eastern Conference? Shout out to Bobby Marks. He picked the Spurs in 5, and it's still not his worst ever basketball decision. What up, Wemby? Your name doesn't have an L, so I can't make the joke, but thankfully you're literally shaped like the letter L. Goodness.
That's good. That's good.
I am here for Profanity DJ, by the way. I am here for DJ Cussin. Repeat after me. Fuck them picks. Mikal Bridges. Forever and ever, Brooklyn, you should have asked for more. Take another 8th man with your picks. We'll take a title. De'Aaron Fox. Goodness. They clearly have not gotten all the Sacramento out of you. You looked Jalen Brunson dead in his eyes as if you had smoke for him. And then you fucked around and found out that everybody's better until it's time to be better than Jalen Brunson. Shout out to the New York Knicks. Shout out to Fat Joe doing what he could behind the
Shout out to Fat Joe.
Yeah,
shout out to the nuns.
Yeah, the nuns.
Shout out to the nuns. Clearly, my dad prayed harder. Tony Brothers, you did your best. I know you wanted a game 7. Great. There's no match for these New York Knicks at the moment. Fellas, I repeat, the New York Knicks are 2 wins away from an NBA championship, have a 2-0 lead in the NBA Finals, and have won 13 consecutive games. The last time a Knicks loss went final, the New York Jets were on the clock in the NFL draft.
So, 2 things.
That's all I got.
One, there's only been one other team in NBA history to win 13 straight playoff games, and it was the team that a series of blue moon events allowed them to pair arguably the 2 best offensive players in the sport and put one of them on a team that was already a 70-win team. That's the only other team in NBA history that won 13 straight playoff games. And
I can't believe it.
It is the most. Well, look. I'm not going there yet, but like where we are, it is in the cards that we are in the midst of the most improbable sports story of our lifetime.
I will repeat one more time. 2-0 lead in the NBA Finals. 13 consecutive wins. 2 wins away from an NBA championship. If the Knicks go 2-3 the rest of the season, they will be NBA champions. Right through the heart of Texas. Let's go Knicks. Hell yeah, ladies and gentlemen.
And then the second
I don't want to wear this hat anymore.
I mean, it looks really good on you, though.
Thank you.
But that looks better. The second thing that I'm going to say is, I don't know if anybody else noticed, but Mitchell Robinson got to appear on the post-game dais press conference situation there after the finals. There is something so fitting about the longest tenured Knick and a guy who has been here since when this team was. Shout out to my guy Frank from Patreon. I know he's listening. When this team was just a pair of assless chaps, That's a Frank line for anybody who doesn't know. And he gets to sit up there on game 2 of the NBA Finals and talk about a defensive game-saving play that he made. That made just put such a smile on my face.
And look, he missed some. He made 2 free throws, or made 3. 3 of 6 from the free throw line.
Hey, listen, 1 point win.
Take that. Yes.
Took that for data.
And
talk about his first coach. Was that his first coach?
That was his first coach.
That's his first coach, right?
Yeah, he got drafted to, and then for some reason it was controversial that he played over Enes Kanter.
Don't remind me of that.
Yeah.
Period.
We're going to be doing a lot of that this summer, thinking about where we were, fellas, to where we are now.
I didn't see the watch along. Andrew, how were you processing the Spurs avalanche late? And
they only lost the lead for like a matter of moments. And then Jalen Brunson did Jalen Brunson things. I was impressed by the Spurs, like the young team that everybody's saying the lights are too bright. And even I have like dabbled in Wemby looks gassed. I remain impressed by this young team that was going to be a force to be reckoned with for a long time, right? So, like, you knew the run was coming. I will just say that the fact that the Knicks trailed for like a grand total of 30 seconds made it very easy for me to now count on this team to get the job done. Had Wemby hit that shot, I would have probably joined in all of the Knicks PTSD that John talked about at the beginning. Fellas, they haven't lost since the NFL draft. I am at a point in belief in this team that I'm now expecting them to pull it out. And they've earned that. I want this for so many of them. Guys, this has become bigger than New York or the Knicks or even us. I want this for Mike Brown. He never will have to hear again. He was the Knicks' last choice in a coaching search. I want this for Karl-Anthony Towns. We'll go from, is he too soft to be a champion, to, my God, he's the toughest guy on the team, leading huddles, talking sense into Josh Hart, and an NBA champion as a former first overall pick. We never have to hear the name Isaiah Hartenstein again if Karl-Anthony Towns wins a championship. I want this for Josh Hart. I know he had a rough game tonight, but we'll never have to hear, can you start Josh Hart on a championship team? It's self-explanatory. I want this for Mikal Bridges. Just we'll never watch the draft again. We'll just watch replays for the playoffs. Right?
Andrew.
I want this for Jalen Brunson. The heart of a champion had an awful night. He is getting literally dragged through the mud as he crosses half court and is not getting a whistle. And yet he still finds a way to hit the game tying shot and the game winning free throw. It would be great if he wins this at the Garden. It would also be great if he wins a championship in a building where Becky Hammond's jersey is retired. I want this for this so bad. And I believe in this group that they're going to say all the right things. They're already preaching the 0-0 mantra. I want this for them. I want this for us. I want this for the city. And they are on the fucking doorstep. Let's go.
Hell yeah.
On that note,
you get to go to SNY now.
I gotta hop off for a few minutes. I will just say, like, I've said I want this for all those fine folks, and you got to it at the end. Man, we deserve this. 2 more to go. 2 more to go. Got to get him. Got to get him in the next 2. Get him in the next 3. Get him in the next 4. I mean, I don't know that my heart could survive it, but get him in the next 5. Just get 2 more. That's all.
I will quote my good friend Jonathan Macri when we were in this exact same situation a year ago that seemed very improbable that they had won 2 games on the road against a 60-win team. The second one being on Jalen Brunson free throws by 1 point in Boston. Go win 2 more. However you do it, go win 2 more.